I've got 4 main areas of focus that we're going to cover with you all. Starting off with just what is Google My Business. I trust that a bulk of you on today's call know what that is, but we're going to go into the nitty gritty on how to claim and manage your Google My Business profile. We're going to talk about some top tricks, features, functionality of that, as well as how to optimize your Google My Business profiles. So let's go ahead and get into this. What exactly is a Google My Business profile? You can think of it as your second website. Google has really shifted its focus on certainly providing people and serving up websites, but Google wants you to stay on their digital property. So over time, we are anticipating folks visiting less websites and focusing on your Google My Business page because they already know what they're searching for. So for example, if I'm searching for pizza near me, and I already know what pizza place I want to order, I just need their phone number. I don't need to visit your website in order to grab your phone number because it's already there. So Google My Business serves itself up from a user interface standpoint in a couple different capacities. What you're seeing here is it being served up on a mobile device, and there are certain things that show up on mobile devices that don't show up on a typical computer. And we'll get into that as the presentation rolls through. The other way that it shows up is 3 main areas on a desktop or on a laptop. What you have here is your knowledge panel that will show up. This is something that pops up on the right-hand side when you're searching for a specific company. As you scroll down a more generic search, say looking for a roofing company near you or with your zip code or something like that, you'll end up seeing something called the map pack. That scrolls up in the middle of the search result itself. And then finally, when I go over to Google Maps and start clicking around on little pinpoints and looking at stuff, it will populate here. It is pretty much the same information from display to display. However, some things may not show and some things do show. Very interesting statistic here. Consumers have become aware that Google is providing local results based off their specific location in that moment. So think of you going on a road trip and you're trying to figure out where the closest McDonald's is to you. What you want as a consumer is for the results to show based off where you are in that moment, not from 250 miles away where you started. So adding things like near me or my specific locale that I'm in is something that is becoming much more popular. And there's a history behind why that has occurred. And we'll get to that in just a moment. But one thing that I found really interesting in my research here was that 56% of local businesses do not have a Google My Business profile claimed. The key takeaway from me on that is that your competition is getting in front of prospective customers more often than you are if you don't have your Google My Business profile claimed, let alone optimized. So let's take a brief step back and take a look at how the history of search and how it's become what it is today. Back in the day, you used to be able to do something called keyword stuffing on your website. Now, when search first became a thing, it was the Wild West, and we would get all kinds of random search results showing up. So you may very well be looking for a tire shop near you, and all of a sudden some random boutique cheese shop in Wisconsin will show up 500 miles away from you. That's not a good user experience. And so Google has basically set the stage for 5 main pillars of what it means to be optimized online and how your Google My Business profile can help influence how people find you on the internet. First and foremost, distance is important, although that has been somewhat de-emphasized based off a recent update in November of last year, where Google essentially said relevance seems to be much more prominent than distance. Certainly still a factor, but having relevant content on your Google My Business page as well as your website are things that blend into that search engine optimization. How often you post online, your recency is extremely important. And I have a very interesting stat for you later as we get into the presentation on that. Your prominence online is very, very important. For example, I have got a company that does water purification systems in Iowa. A customer of mine, they are a franchise operation of a particular type of water filtration and whole house systems. Culligan is their main competitor. In their local search area, they dominate because of their prominence. They have got every single user manual on their website of every single item that they sell. Their local competition doesn't. So they are serving up their customers as well as other franchise owners information online on how to service certain things. And it has gained them specific online popularity. The other thing that is very interesting here is your availability. And this is a very interesting component here, talking about consistency online. And we'll get into that as we go in through this presentation a little bit more, but maintaining accurate information on your website, your Facebook page, and your Google My Business profile all play into whether or not you are a reliable source of information. So how do you get started with building a Google My Business profile? It's pretty straightforward. Google's going to require you to have a Gmail account associated with your Google My Business listing. So that starts with just creating a Google account if you don't already have one. You're then going to go to google.com/business. You're going to hit start now, and you're going to start punching in your information. They make it extremely easy, and their user interface is pretty idiot-proof in my opinion. The last step of all this is you're going to have to choose a verification option. Sometimes Google gives you an option, sometimes they don't. The most common way that we see that our customers who are creating a new profile on Google My Business is via postcard for the verification component of it. Google will send you a postcard with a 5 or 6 digit code that you punch in, and you'll receive that after a few days of creating that online profile. If your company's older, you have some online presence, they may give you an instant verification, or they may do it by phone or email, but the bulk of what we see with our customer base is via postcard. We also see this as when our customers change addresses or create new locations in addition to the current location that they currently have. Breaking down your Google My Business profile, you have numerous attributes and things that you're going to be able to fill in over time. You're going to be able to describe your company, who you are, your sales pitch, why people should do business with you, describe who you are. You're going to be able to categorize your services area and the services listings of what you offer. You can provide an appointment link, and then we'll go through this on talking about how you bolster your online profile via posts and photos and videos. So let's get into the tactics on how to drive local reach, which will ultimately lead to more inquiries or leads that can come from having a well-rounded out Google My Business profile. First and foremost, we need to start off with the basics. NAP data. Now that is an industry jargon term for name, address, and phone. It has a really big impact on your visibility. Keep in mind, Google, in a sense, is just a big computer and takes things literally. So having things like an ampersand versus AND, LLC versus no LLC, periods as opposed to parentheses in your listings, those things matter, and you need to maintain consistency across your brand and across your online presence. So Google very well may think this Michael AND Sons is different from Michael ampersand Sons. So an exercise that you're going to want to go through, not only with Google My Business and your website, but Facebook, Yellow Pages, wherever else you're listed online. An exercise you're going to definitely want to do is make sure that your naming of your company, phone number, and address is accurate. This is a bit of a daunting task, and I acknowledge that. But once it's done, it's a set it and forget it kind of a situation. Now, categories helps us get into something that's called structured data. So all of us have experienced the usefulness of structured data if we have a modern personal voice assistant like a Google Home or Amazon Alexa. Shoot, you may have used Siri today, and you say, hey, when does Costco open up today? And it spits out, it opens at 9:30, right? That is coming from structured data that is pre-populated in your Google My Business profile, that you select who you are and you make sure that those categories, hours of operations, et cetera, are accurate. So what we want to describe in here is what your business is, not what you do. You're an HVAC installer, not the, and pardon the pun, not the world's coolest AC guy. You are a dentist, not the nicest, most affordable dentist in town. Look, Google understands synonyms, and it understands, for example, that if I go to Google and I search roofing company, roofing installer, roof repair, shingle repair, it takes into account the layperson's understanding of vocabulary of specific industries and understands that, look, I know that I'm looking for someone to fix my roof. And that's what it comes down to. So being able to categorize your company based off specific services or products that you do is imperative. Once you've set that up, you're going to create a services list. Now, this is an interesting element here. We know that over time, we have seen more search occur on a mobile device than we have seen occur on a computer. When someone searches on a mobile device, they are looking for something immediate and local, whereas searching on a computer may not necessarily mean the same thing. With a modern smartphone, Google's able to pinpoint via GPS and whichever cell phone tower you're connected to your location. So when I'm searching for a roofing company near me, I'm looking for a hamburger place near me, I'm looking for something immediately around me, not from where I was at or where I'm going. So this leads into establishing your service area. Brief history here about service areas. Way back in the day, Google basically would draw a 49-mile radius around whatever you consider to be your headquartered address. That became a problem. Case in point, Northern New Jersey. Perhaps someone isn't licensed to do business in New York City or New York State in general. A 49-mile radius around Northern New Jersey includes a sizable chunk of New York. And that may not be where I want my phone calls and leads to come from. So Google said, okay, fine. We'll give you up to 99 locations that you can list. So people punched in very specific zip codes that they want to do business in, but there were problems with that as well because there's a lot of data to handle. Zip codes were not kept up to date as your service areas changed. And Google this past year said, forget it all. Let's make this a lot easier for everyone involved. You are now limited to 20 locations that you can list as your service area. So the strategy that we serve up to our customers is, look, start off on the county level first. Cast the widest net possible, then start getting a little more granular. Start specifying whatever town and city you want to get into, and maybe there's some very specific high-end zip codes that you would like to do business in. This allows you then to narrow that list down even further. Now, in addition to managing all those elements of your Google My Business profile comes with actually interacting with your customers. It is a goal to get as many reviews as possible. This goes back to your level of online authority and how you have invested over time in what we call your online equity. Getting reviews shows that you have happy people who like your company. People are overjoyed to go online and complain about a company. There are dozens of review sites that exist about just being angry online. It is difficult to get people to leave reviews, and I'm going to talk about that in the next couple slides here. But think of getting positive reviews as a way of marketing to future prospective customers. It is imperative that you respond back to every review that comes in. Google takes into account 3 main areas of review. First and foremost, their digital property. So your Google My Business profiles, where they're going to want to see reviews occurring. There's 2 other places online that they take into account that build towards your online reputation. One is your website. If your website is not equipped with a first-party review or the ability for someone to come to your website and leave you a review, you need to think about having that built into your website. And then the third and final place, what I consider to be the modern word of mouth, Facebook. Facebook is the modern word of mouth with respect to home services, dentistry, medical services, etc. Most people have some form of an online HOA page or community page that they post to. So maintaining all 3 of those at the same time is a lot of work, and I acknowledge that. However, Google rules the world with respect to search, and now we have to play their game. So when a positive review comes in, or any review for that matter, quite frankly, you're going to want to respond within the first 24 to 48 hours. This does not do anything for your online presence. It does not contribute towards your search engine optimization, your SEO, but the Google robots are not your customer. The people who actually show up to your shop or pick up the phone to call you are your customer. So we need to keep that human component at play here. So what responding to reviews does is it builds warm fuzzies between you and the person who left the review, as well as marketing towards future customers. Now, one thing that I really drive home with my customers is saying, listen, you're allowed to have some fun with these reviews, with responding back to reviews. I get that saying thank you so many times can get redundant. There's only so many ways to say thank you to someone. Try and personalize it. Let's just say you're a HVAC installer, you're installing a new compressor unit outside, and Sammy the golden retriever is running around the backyard. You know, Tara leaves a review here saying that you guys did a great job. You were fast, you were courteous, you were clean and professional, and there is nothing wrong with responding back, thanking Tara for her time, and also saying Sammy the golden retriever was an excellent site foreman. He should get an extra milk bone today or something like that. Have fun with it. People like to see that. People like to see companies that are engaged online interacting. Now, if you take anything away from this slide, the number one thing that I want you to take away from here is talking about negative reviews. It is not a matter of if, but when. You will get a negative review at some point in time, okay? It could be fully legitimate. It could also just be someone who's crazy and is mistaking you as someone else or whatever. You need to own up to the mistakes that were made, if any. You need to apologize and offer a remedy to it, okay? It doesn't have to be some long drawn out thing, but we're sorry that we messed up the quote. We should do better next time. Thank you for identifying a flaw in our sales process. Here is my personal phone number, or here's my email address on how you can get a hold of us. I'd like to fix the situation for you. You have got to remove emotion out of this. We are human. Humans screw up. It happens. How you respond back to the negative review is a better driving force than having 100 positive reviews there. Do not respond back in all caps lock, which is the internet equivalent of yelling at someone, okay? Let facts reign supreme here. Be honest and open and own up to mistakes that happen. They're gonna happen, let it be, but let's just make sure that we respond back in an appropriate manner. Now, getting into an element here of Google reviews. Something that's really interesting here is, first and foremost, getting reviews, like I said, is difficult. However, a third of Google reviews are only star reviews. People don't take the time to write out saying thank you, you did a good job, etc. Knowing that that was an issue, Google went ahead and put in this notion of attributes, where people can leave the star review first and then click through keywords that can describe your company. Now, the way it works is like this. If someone's willing to give you a 4 or 5 star review, a question will pop up and say, what do you like about this business? And you can click things like they were punctual, quality, professionalism, responsiveness, things along those lines. If it's a neutral review, no attributes will be presented to the person leaving the review, but a text box will appear. Negative reviews, on the opposite end of the positives here, give you the option to leave negative attributes here. Again, this is something that you're going to want to respond to on all 3 of these incidents. Speaking of attributes, there's another level of attribute that is assigned to the company, not necessarily to the reviews. This is a relatively new feature to Google. Google tends to roll out new features and limits the amount of things that can be done there. So right now, you're able to highlight 3 separate items on your Google My Business profile to help you uniquely differentiate yourself from your competition. You can check off if you are a veteran-led organization, if you're a women-led organization, or if you offer online appointments. We know that Google will be adding more categories over time because that's just what they do. So now let's get into the content component of how you can publish information online. There's basically 2 separate types of content that you can add to your Google My Business profile. One is photos. The second is Google Posts. Think of this Google Posts section here that shows up on your profile as that like a Twitter feed or a Facebook feed. There's 5 categories that exist, 2 of which are brand new, coronavirus related. Putting those aside, so you may want to put something like we're practicing social distancing, et cetera, et cetera. These are the 3 most common ones that you're going to do. And let's work our way from left to right. Event and offer are unique from the update section in that they allow you to have a time and date on which those posts will show up and then disappear. So offer, you're going to be offering 10% off installation for the month of September. You are working with your internal marketing team today. It's only August 11th, but you're going to start planning for your September special. You can go ahead and create the graphic. You can upload it. You can add the details about the offer and set it so it runs for the entire month of September. I have a lot of customers who work on this rolling offer schedule, and not only do we publish information to their websites for them, but we help them utilize this component as well. Events is somewhat partially laughable right now for those of you in the home industry, or home services industries. You're not going to be going any home shows anytime soon. However, if you end up going to a home show, take a picture of your booth. Take a picture of the team standing there. Take a picture of the swag that you're handing out. That's what you're going to want to add on the event section there. Now, a little more intimate that you can get into here with events. The general public really prefers to do business with local companies. Knowing that that's the case, showcase your community involvement. Let's just say you are going to sponsor a little league team's pizza night. Publish that. That's awesome that you're doing that. Let's just say you're going to sponsor the local 5K, 10K turkey trot on Thanksgiving Day in your town, and you're the gold sponsor for it. You got flyers everywhere about it. Publish that. Gloat about your community involvement. Those things definitely build towards trust factors of people wanting to do business with you because they like doing business with companies that are involved in the community. Last item on here is update, and this is the one that the bulk of my customers end up utilizing, and it shows up over here and it shows up for a few weeks and then drops off. Ideally, both with the next slide that I'm going to talk about, which is photos and videos, as well as the posts, I'd really like to see as a best practice you posting twice a week. Describe something that's going on. So in this case, this roofing company here is talking about the shingles that they're installing and a few other things like that. They've got a video and an image here describing what's occurring. Let's just say you're a little soft on content right now. What can you do? Publish a press release. Let's just say GAF has released a brand new shingle or a new way of nailing shingles down. It's revolutionary. They put out the press release. Go ahead and share that on here and talk about it. It shows that you are involved in the community, involved in the industry. You are kept abreast of what is occurring, and you're up to date on the knowledge of what's around you in your industry. You are free to share whatever you want on there. The big thing here is just keep it relevant. All right, so taking a look at your Google My Business profile, when someone arrives at it, let's just say, for example, on their mobile device, one element that is going to happen is they're going to either click on your website or call you. Putting those actions aside, the second most common area that people click on a Google My Business profile is the photo section. There's a credibility issue here that is really interesting with us humans, and this applies to not only your Google My Business profile, but it does apply to other places online, your social media pages, your website, etc. 3 weeks seems to be this magic area of where trust factor starts to diminish. If you haven't published something online in the last 3 weeks, not only Google, but really consumers are going to have a slight issue with that. Are they still in business? They haven't posted anything in a while. What does that mean? The last post they had was back in April. Wait, we've had the coronavirus. Are they out of business now? I agree that it's probably a little bit silly that's how people think, but that is the case. So the best practices that I coach my customers on is posting twice a week, not only to your Google My Business profile, but to other online places as well. You can film a quick 30-second video explaining some new revolutionary thing in your industry. Let's just say you're an orthodontist and they've developed some new glue for getting the braces to stick on teeth and it's more environmentally friendly or God knows what. Yeah, talk about that. Talk about why it's beneficial. As long as what you're posting is relevant, that's what matters. Now, this is also a relatively new component to your Google My Business profile, and this will bleed into something that I've got on the next slide here. But there's a Q&A section on your Google My Business profile. Anyone with a Gmail account can go to any Google My Business profile and ask any question you want. So right now, I could go to Colorado Rooftoppers Google My Business profile and ask them if they can deliver me a large pepperoni pizza tomorrow afternoon. Yeah, I can ask that question. Now, there's a little flag there that we can flag inappropriate questions, but really what the whole point of this Q&A section here is contributing back towards that element of structured data, as well as what's really awesome here is this people also ask section. I'm sure you've seen this before as you're searching for something and it has this little population underneath of people also ask. Right now, this people also ask is information that's just generally being pulled from the internet. Google's goal is eventually to make that information local when possible. So if I search, is CertainTeed brand roofing material good for hail-prone areas? And I happen to be in Colorado, north of Denver, where we know we get a ton of hail. What do? We want to have eventually a question of yours that you may already have on your section, on your Q&A section, be served up as an answer, because it's an additional way of a lead source where people can find your website. And this is really fantastic. It's ultimately starting to tailor information and search results on the local level and be more informative to the general public. Another element that exists on your Google My Business profile happens to do with appointment links. It is really shocking to me as I browse around on the internet, just in my own personal life, on how many places are lacking appointment links on their Google My Business profile. What you're going to want to do is make sure that that link goes to like an appointments or contact us section on your website. If your website does not have a dedicated page that has a contact us fill form along with a phone number and a map on it, you're gonna want to get that on there as soon as possible. This is really critical because people will take action saying, okay, roofing and more, I want to know, I know I need a new roof. Let's just go straight to the appointment section and have them go from there. Now, with all this great stuff that Google allows you to do, you're gonna want to see how you're performing. And Google has not skimped out on this at all. They provide some pretty awesome analytics that show you over time how you're performing. So how many people have clicked on the visit website button on your Google My Business page? How many people from a mobile device have called you? How many people have looked at you on a map to see where you're physically located? It really breaks down information here, and it's really fantastic because it can show you that your level of effort over time is working, or noticing, okay, when we make a post on a Monday, every Tuesday we seem to see a spike in traffic. What's that mean for us? Well, we should post more often, or what have you. Very straightforward. Now, getting towards the end here, interesting thing that we've become aware of with your Google My Business listings. If you go to Google right now and search for roofer near me, for example, at the top of the search page, you should see 3 square boxes show up. Those are what's known as local service ads. Those are a pay per lead model from Google. That phone number that displays is owned by Google. It auto forwards to your business phone number, and if it's a good lead and you book that lead, you pay for it. If you're a roofing company and someone asks you to install a swimming pool, you can dispute the lead, you get your money back. So that's the history of this notion of Google Guaranteed. Google Guaranteed verifies that your company is legit, it's operational, it's on the up and up, you've passed a background check that you've paid for, things along those lines. The problem with some of this is Google has encountered bogus Google My Business profiles as well as spam issues. So as a way to combat that, they are going to start monetizing Google My Business profiles and enhance Google My Business profile. We don't know fully yet what they are going to be including in the enhanced profiles yet. You will get this Google guarantee. Now, what does the Google guarantee mean for the general public? Great question. That means that they are protected by up to $2,000. So if I call you to install a new water heater in my house and somehow you manage to flood my basement, I can make a claim with Google and get $2,000 or up to $2,000 back in my pocket because I chose to do business with you. And it's a way of Google attempting to make things right. It's a way for you to differentiate yourself from your competition. Now, Google keeps those local service ads diplomatic and fair and refreshes them. So you may search today for water heater installer and 3 companies will show up. You go back and do that search 3 hours from now, it'll rotate who shows up again. It's very diplomatic and Google keeps it that way. Now, we don't know fully when Google is going to be releasing this. They have announced that they have test marketed it in a few areas, but knowing how Google has operated historically, we're pretty confident in two elements of this. One, Google is going to specify a very specific geographic region. They're going to say, we're going to pick Austin, New York City, and Los Angeles, or whatever. And then they're going to narrow it down further by specific industry. We're going to focus on optometrists, dentists, and plumbers. And they'll run from there for 6 months, and then they'll expand out, and then they'll expand out, and then expand out. That's how they rolled out the local service ads. So we fully anticipate that's how they're going to roll out the next evolution of that, which is the enhanced Google My Business profiles. All right, we are almost done. So what I've got for you here now is some tips and tricks. What we really want to see is that you are using plain language, not industry jargon, on your Google My Business profiles and your Q&As and the posts that you use. We want to assume that there's a layperson not understanding your industry reading this. Plain language is the way to go. It shows Google and prospective customers that you are engaged online with the activity that we've guided you through today, and making sure that you are speaking to them in a way that they can understand. Because people use plain language to search for that. Going back to roofers, for example, someone is not going to go on to Google and search 1212 pitch roof replacement. That's not a thing that the average person is going to think about. What they're going to say is broken shingles. Who can replace broken shingles? Repair broken shingles. Roofer fix roof. Very simple language. So maintain that across all the things that I've discussed with you today. Simplicity is key. Now, if you do end up using industry jargon, define it. Put it in parentheses behind it. That makes sense, and that's okay to educate the public on what you're doing. But for the bulk of what you're doing, please make sure you're using plain language. Now, like I said earlier in the presentation, people know what they want to search. One thing that we are expecting to see and anticipating, quite frankly, is a drop in website traffic over time. Please do not let that statement rattle you in thinking that your website is irrelevant. It is extremely relevant. However, your audience is not shrinking. A well-built, well-maintained Google My Business profile is going to attract people. So your audience isn't going away, they're just going to a different digital location. And if your Google My Business profile is set up appropriately, you're not losing out. I am personally seeing this with a handful of my customers. So maintain that Google My Business listing, participate in it. All right, last slide for me here. Moving on here, and this has to do with, sorry about that. All right, there is a direct correlation between effort put into your Google My Business page and prospective customer inquiries over time, okay? I fully acknowledge and am empathetic to the fact that you have to run your business. You have to make sure accounts payable and accounts receivable are up and running. You got to make sure that crew is showing up to job sites properly, supply chain issues, vendors are getting you what you need, that patients are showing up on time, that your patient appointment reminder system is working, all these things that go into running your business. And now Google's coming at you going, hey, we know life's difficult. Let's add this into the mix as well. Now, we know that maintaining an active presence online has its benefits. And that ultimately becomes a challenge because maintaining posts on Facebook, Google, Twitter, Instagram, interacting on Nextdoor, Houzz, whatever other forums online you manage your online presence can become daunting over time.